the story of ancient weapons, powder, and war. In a land ruled by stone citadels and vast walled cities, the ancient kingdom of Drakkar thrived. Drakkar was famed for its artisans, blacksmiths, and inventors whose craft brought prosperity and power. The Drukhari people, led by King Aron the Blacksmith King, were skilled in the art of metallurgy and alchemy, using their knowledge to forge weapons that had no equal. They believed that strength was drawn not only from the spirit, but also from the tools one wielded. And over the centuries, their weapons and armor became the most coveted in all lands. In Drakkar's capital, Andor, the famed Iron Quarter was a labyrinthine district of workshops and forges, where blacksmiths worked day and night, forging tools of war from the iron and bronze they pulled from the earth. But while iron swords, bronze-tipped spears, and obsidian-edged clubs were powerful, King Aron knew that the world was changing. Other kingdoms were rising with formidable armies, and the Blacksmith King feared that Drakkar's mastery over steel alone might not secure their future. The invention that would reshape the future of warfare came from a young Drukhari alchemist named Nira. She was not a warrior, nor even a blacksmith. She was a thinker, endlessly curious and skilled in the ancient arts of alchemy. One night, she stumbled upon a new discovery in her experiments, a volatile mixture of charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter that, when ignited, created a fiery explosion. This discovery, an early form of gunpowder, was initially seen as dangerous and unstable, but Nira saw potential. She believed it could change the fate of Drakkar if only the right vessel could contain and direct its power. When King Aron heard of Nira's invention, he summoned her to his court. There, she demonstrated the powder's explosive power, filling the court with a smoky haze and a flash of light that left the audience in awe. Aron knew that this discovery could become Drakkar's greatest weapon, but he also understood that it was dangerous. He ordered Nira and his best blacksmiths to collaborate, and together they began crafting the first pots of fire, small clay vessels filled with the explosive powder, which could be lit and hurled at enemies to create chaos and destruction. The pots of fire became known as Drukhari flames, and they were soon feared across the land. Warriors carried these clay grenades in battle, lighting them and throwing them at enemies, creating explosions that shattered shields and sent enemies fleeing. But Nira did not stop there. With King Aron's support, she began to explore other ways to harness the power of the explosive powder, and thus, the Drukhari arsenal expanded. Soon, the blacksmiths of Andor began crafting early cannon-like devices from bronze and iron, which they called thunderpots. These crude cannons were mounted on walls or carried into battle by teams of warriors. Though unwieldy and difficult to aim, the thunderpots could launch metal shards and stones toward enemy ranks, wreaking havoc among the advancing lines. With each strike, they let out a deafening roar, as if the thunder itself had come to aid the Drukhari. News of these strange weapons spread quickly across the land, and neighboring kingdoms began to fear Drakkar's might. But among those who were wary of Drakkar's growing power was Lord Zarek of the northern kingdom of Hyrule. Known as the Hawk of the North, Zarek was a cunning and ambitious leader who believed that Hyrule, not Drakkar, was destined to dominate the land. Determined to challenge Drakkar's supremacy, he sent spies into Drakkar to learn the secrets of the Drukhari flames and thunderpots. In time, Zarek's spies returned, bringing knowledge of the powder and the techniques used to create the fire pots. Soon, Hyrule's own blacksmiths began producing similar weapons, and Zarek was confident he could meet Drakkar's strength on the battlefield. He amassed his forces, confident that the power of fire and smoke would secure his victory. The two kingdoms clashed on the plains of Kheiran, a vast open field surrounded by low hills and ancient stones, where generations of warriors had fought and fallen. The sky was dark with the smoke of fire pots and the scent of sulfur, and the ground shook with the roar of thunderpots as the Drakari and Hyronian armies met in a brutal clash. Warriors clad in iron and leather, wielding both traditional weapons and the new tools of destruction, charged across the battlefield, their battle cries drowned out by explosions and the screams of the wounded. At the heart of the Drakari army stood King Aeron himself, wielding his warhammer, forged from the finest iron and adorned with symbols of his lineage. Beside him was Nera, watching the battlefield with an intense gaze. She had no taste for bloodshed, but she understood the significance of her invention in protecting her homeland. She had also prepared a secret weapon, a larger and more powerful version of the Thunderpot, capable of launching heavy projectiles across great distances. As the battle raged on, the Drakari launched this massive cannon from the top of a hill, aiming at the heart of the Hyronian forces. The roar of the blast sent waves of shock through the enemy ranks, and the projectile crashed into Zarek's lines, scattering warriors and breaking the Hyronian formation. Zarek, enraged and desperate, ordered his men to press forward, even as his forces faltered. In the heat of the battle, Nera's cannons and fire pots turned the tide, and the Drakari forces slowly gained the upper hand. Zarek, realizing he had underestimated the power of Drakar's weapons, attempted to retreat, but King Aeron cut off his escape, trapping him against the cliffs on the far side of the battlefield. In a final act of defiance, Zarek charged at Aeron, but the Blacksmith King struck him down, ending the Hawk of the North's ambition and securing Drakar's dominance. With the victory at Kheiron, Drakar became the most powerful kingdom in the land. Its warriors, wielding weapons of fire and thunder, were unmatched, and its borders grew as neighboring kingdoms pledged loyalty rather than face the terror of the Drakari flames. Aeron's reign became known as the Age of Steel and Flame, a time when the might of Drakar reshaped the world. Yet Nera, the creator of the Drakari flames, grew weary of war. She saw how her invention had transformed battle into something fearsome, and she feared that the power she had unleashed would eventually consume them all. She approached King Aeron, urging him to consider peace, to use their strength to protect rather than conquer. Aeron, though a warrior, respected Nera's wisdom, and he began to seek alliances rather than conquest, creating a council of kingdoms that agreed to abide by certain codes of warfare. The legacy of Drakar's weapons endured, a reminder of the power held within the smallest spark and the dangers of unchecked ambition. The Age of Steel and Flame passed into history, but the people of Drakar remembered the lesson of Nera and Aeron, that while power could build empires, wisdom was needed to ensure they did not burn to ashes. The ancient cannons and fire pots were displayed in Drakar's great halls, not as trophies of conquest, but as symbols of restraint, warnings to future generations of the devastating force their ancestors had wielded, and the price they had paid to learn that true strength lay not in war, but in the peace they had fought so hard to protect. Generations later, storytellers in Drakar recounted the tales of the Age of Steel and Flame, describing the bravery of King Aeron, the wisdom of Nera, and the horrors of the ancient battlefield. The fire pots and thunder pots became symbols not of glory, but of humility, preserved as relics to remind the people of the heavy burden of power. Young Drakari children visited the halls, gazing upon the ancient weapons as their elders shared the lessons of restraint, respect, and the sanctity of peace. As Drakar thrived in harmony with its neighbors, its people honored the legacy of those who had fought, not for the spoils of war, but for a future unburdened by it. And in this lasting peace, the people of Drakar found a new kind of strength, one forged from unity and tempered by compassion.